Oh look, another peaceful first contact, Admiral Lyra Chen drawled into her coffee mug, watching the massive Xylaxian warships tear through New Eden's orbital defense platforms like tissue paper. Because clearly, showing up with 2,000 warships screams, "We come in peace." The bridge crew of the EDF Prometheus maintained their professional demeanor, though a few lips twitched. They'd served under Chen long enough to appreciate her particular brand of gallows humor. Lieutenant Zhang at Tactical didn't even look up as he reported, "New Eden's primary colony dome has been breached, Admiral. Civilian casualties? Significant." Wonderful. Chen set down her mug, ceramic clicking against metal with deliberate precision. And here I was worried we'd have to deal with subtle diplomatic nuances. Her dark eyes narrowed as she watched another defense platform explode in a brilliant flash of light. "Status of the QCA?" Commander Reeves, her XO, quietly cleared his throat. "Quantum communications array is functioning exactly as intended, Admiral." A ghost of a smile touched Chen's lips. "Well, isn't that interesting? And our losses?" "Devastating, ma'am. Absolutely catastrophic. The Xylaxians will be quite pleased with themselves." Reeves managed to keep his voice appropriately grave, though there was a gleam in his eyes that matched Chen's. "We've lost contact with 15 colonies in the past week alone." "Lost contact. Such a shame." Chen stood, straightening her uniform with practiced precision. "You know what the really funny part is? They actually think they're teaching us a lesson about warfare." She walked to the tactical display where red dots representing Xylaxian ships overwhelmed the pitiful green markers of human defenders. "It's adorable, really, like watching a toddler explain quantum mechanics to a physicist." The bridge crew maintained their serious expressions, but the undercurrent of anticipation was palpable. They'd all been waiting for this moment, trained for it, prepared for it. The Xylaxians thought they were watching humanity's defense capabilities crumble. They had no idea they were actually watching the most elaborate military deception in human history unfold. "Admiral," Lieutenant Zhang called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Xylaxian flagship. They're demanding our surrender." Chen's laugh was sharp enough to cut diamond. "Oh, this is precious. They're actually doing the whole surrender or face extinction speech. I was worried they'd skip the classics." She straightened her shoulders, composing her features into an appropriately terrified expression. "Well then, let's not keep our new friends waiting. Open a channel." As the communications officer complied, Chen whispered under her breath, just loud enough for her bridge crew to hear, "Since you chose war, my dear Xylaxians, let us show you how it's done." Then louder, with just the right tremor of fear in her voice, "This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We wish to discuss terms of surrender." Behind her back, her fingers formed the ancient human gesture of crossing them. The quantum communications array hummed silently in the background, sending faster-than-light messages to every lost colony, every destroyed ship, every defeated human force. The game was about to begin, and humanity had been setting up the board for decades. The Xylaxians had no idea they weren't the players. They were the pieces. The holographic image of High Emperor Zixatal towered over the Earth Defense Council chamber, his scaled face twisted in what he probably thought was an intimidating snarl. The effect was somewhat ruined by the fact that Dr. Marcus Drake kept making puppet gestures with his hand every time the alien spoke. "You have 24 Earth hours to surrender unconditionally," the Emperor declared, mandibles clicking in satisfaction, "or we will demonstrate the true meaning of warfare." General Thaddeus Knox, head of the Defense Council, maintained an appropriately grave expression. "This is a most serious ultimatum, Your Imperial Majesty. We humbly request time to consult with our remaining colonies." "Remaining colonies," Drake muttered under his breath, tapping away at his quantum tablet. "Because we're asterisk, totally asterisk, not in constant communication with all of them right now." The Emperor's image flickered. 24 hours, humans. We have already demonstrated our superiority. Accept your place in the galaxy, or face extinction." As the transmission ended, the chamber erupted in entirely staged panic. Officers shouted about their hopeless situation, politicians demanded immediate surrender, and military strategists outlined their rapidly dwindling options. It was an Oscar-worthy performance that would have done Hollywood proud. Knox waited exactly 5 minutes before pressing a button that activated the chamber's quantum isolation field. The panicked voices immediately ceased, replaced by barely suppressed laughter. "Well," Knox said, leaning back in his chair, "I'd say that went rather well. "Dr. Drake, how's our little science project coming along?" Drake stood, his wild grey hair making him look exactly like the mad scientist he pretended not to be. "Oh, you're going to love this." He gestured, and a new hologram appeared, this one showing a complex network of quantum entangled particles. Project Nemesis is ready for full deployment, and may I just say, the Zelaxians' own arrogance made this ** much easier. Commander Kai Patel, leader of the Special Forces training program, raised an eyebrow. "Do tell. They're so convinced of their technological superiority that they never bothered to check what we were actually doing with all those primitive quantum research stations they've been destroying." Drake's grin was positively feral. Each destroyed station released thousands of quantum-entangled particles. Particles that are now thoroughly embedded in their hull plating, their shield generators, even their weapon systems. "And they have no idea," Lieutenant Commander Maya Rodriguez added from her intelligence station, "that every single one of those particles is linked to our quantum network. We can literally reach inside their ships and touch their systems directly." Knox nodded appreciatively. "And our forces?" Patel stood, activating a different hologram showing training footage. "The Special Forces units have mastered the quantum interface systems. Watch this." The footage showed soldiers in advanced combat suits seemingly teleporting through solid walls, weapons firing shots that ignored shields completely, and communication that was truly instantaneous across vast distances. "The quantum entanglement allows our troops to partially phase through any material containing our particles," Patel explained, "which, thanks to Dr. Drake's ingenious distribution method, includes pretty much every piece of Zelaxian technology in existence. And the best part," Drake cut in, practically bouncing with excitement, "they think they've been watching us desperately trying and failing to catch up to their level of technology. Meanwhile, we've been playing with quantum mechanics so far beyond their understanding that they literally cannot detect what we're doing." Rodriguez pulled up another display, this one showing the locations of all Earth's lost colonies. Each one was now a perfectly positioned military base, fully staffed and equipped with quantum technology that would make the Zelaxians' heads spin if they knew it existed. "So," Knox said, surveying the room with satisfaction, "I believe it's time for Phase 2. Dr. Drake, activate the full Nemesis network. Commander Patel, deploy your forces to their designated positions. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, make sure our desperate communications continue to leak appropriately pathetic information to the enemy." "And what about Admiral Chen?" Patel asked, already moving to comply. Knox's smile was cold. "Oh, she's having the time of her life playing the defeated commander when she finally drops the act." He shook his head in almost pitying amusement. "Those poor Zelaxians. They wanted to teach humanity about war. They're about to learn what happens when you mistake patience for weakness." "Should we feel bad about this?" Rodriguez wondered aloud. "I mean, we've basically spent the last decade setting up the galaxy's biggest practical joke." Drake snorted. "They attacked us unprovoked, demanded our surrender, and threatened our extinction. I'd say this is a proportionate response. Besides," he added with a wicked grin, "think of it as a teaching moment. We're educating them about the dangers of making assumptions." "True enough," Knox agreed, standing. "Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have a war to win. Let's show our Zylaxian friends exactly how humanity does things." As the council members moved to their stations, Drake's voice carried across the chamber. "You know what the really funny part is? They're so proud of their victory message, they've already recorded it for broadcast across the galaxy. Want to bet they'll regret that level of premature confidence?" The laughter that followed was not entirely kind. After all, humanity hadn't spent centuries clawing its way up from the Stone Age to the stars by being nice to those who threatened their existence. The Zelaxians wanted war. They were about to get a masterclass in the subject. The Zylaxian war fleet emerged from hyperspace in a display that would have been impressive if Admiral Chen hadn't seen better light shows at her nephew's birthday party. 3,000 ships, arranged in perfect geometric formations, their hull plating gleaming with that distinctive purple sheen that made Chen think of cheap disco balls. "Well, would you look at that?" she drawled over the quantum-encrypted channel to her fellow fleet commanders. "They even color-coordinated. How thoughtful of them." "Admiral," Commander Reeves reported, maintaining the proper panicked tone for any monitoring Zelaxian sensors, "enemy fleet is advancing on standard victory formation. Their energy signatures are..." They're powering up their main weapons. Of course they are, Chen rolled her eyes, because apparently accepting our surrender requires enough firepower to glass a continent. How very diplomatic of them. Across the Sol system, humanity's remaining forces made a great show of scrambling into defensive positions. Ships moved with deliberate clumsiness, defense platforms sparked and stuttered, and general chaos reigned. It was a masterpiece of choreographed incompetence. Meanwhile, on the quantum network that the Zelaxians couldn't even detect, much less decrypt, the real show was getting started. All fleet commanders, this is Chen. Initiate Operation Hubris. Authentication code. Pride goeth before a fall. She paused, then added, and remember, everyone look properly terrified. We wouldn't want to spoil the surprise. Across 47 star systems, humanity's defeated colonies burst into action. Quantum-linked ships that had been destroyed weeks ago powered up their systems. Special forces teams that had been secretly deployed through quantum tunneling took their positions inside key Xylaxian installations. Dr. Drake's network of entangled particles, now thoroughly integrated into every piece of Xylaxian technology, hummed with potential energy. On Earth, the Defense Council made a great show of preparing their surrender documents. General Knox had insisted on using actual paper, because nothing says defeated civilization quite like reverting to dead trees for official documents, as he'd put it. The underground resistance network, which was really just the regular military wearing slightly different uniforms, sent appropriately desperate messages about last-ditch efforts and hopeless stands. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez had particularly enjoyed writing those. I threw in a few Shakespeare quotes, she'd told Chen earlier. Nothing says doomed humanity quite like quoting dead poets. The Xylaxian flagship, a monstrosity twice the size of anything humans had officially fielded, moved into position above Earth. High Emperor Zixital's holographic image appeared once again, this time projected across every screen on every human world. Citizens of Earth, he began, mandibles quivering with barely suppressed glee, you have chosen wisely in surrendering to our superior might. Your civilization will be preserved as a testament to the futility of resisting the Xylaxian Empire. Chen, watching from her bridge, made a show of slumping in defeat, but her hands were busy sending the final coded instructions through the quantum network. Each message was precisely timed, positioned, and coordinated through the quantum-entangled particles that now infested the Xylaxian fleet like digital termites. All ships, she sub-vocalized through her quantum neural link, synchronize your chronometers. Phase 1 begins in exactly 10 minutes. Remember, make it look good. I want them completely convinced of their victory until the exact moment everything goes sideways. The responses came back instantly, transmitted faster than light through the quantum network. Third Fleet standing by, quantum weapons primed. Special Forces Team Alpha in position inside primary target. Project Nemesis nodes all showing green. Resistance cells ready to accidentally reveal their positions. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Xylaxians had spent the last few weeks methodically hunting down resistance cells across Earth's colonies, feeling very pleased with themselves as they captured or destroyed each one. They hadn't realized that finding these cells had been deliberately easy. Each captured position now housed a quantum tunneling device ready to transport entire assault teams directly into the heart of their fleet. Admiral, Reeves announced, right on schedule, the Emperor is demanding your presence for the official surrender ceremony. He paused for dramatic effect. They're insisting you wear Xylaxian ceremonial chains. Chen didn't have to fake her irritation. Really? Ceremonial chains? What are we, barbarians? She stood, straightening her uniform. Very well. Inform His Most Sparkly Majesty that I will comply with his request and make sure the surrender documents are properly crumpled. We wouldn't want to appear too organized. As she prepared to depart, she sent one final message through the quantum network. All units, remember your Shakespeare. In peace there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger. The responses came back with professional precision. Tiger 1 ready to pounce at Tiger 2 claws sharp. Tiger 3 through 50 awaiting the signal. The Xylaxian honor guard arrived to escort her to their flagship. As Chen allowed herself to be led away, apparently defeated and compliant, she reflected on the beautiful irony of the situation. The Zelaxians had arrived in the Sol system, expecting to cement their victory over humanity. Instead, they'd just positioned their entire command structure exactly where humanity wanted them. "You know," she remarked conversationally to her guards, who didn't understand human expressions well enough to recognize her smile as predatory, "there's an old human saying about tactics and strategy. Would you like to hear it?" The guards ignored her, of course, typical Zylaxian arrogance. "The supreme art of war," she continued anyway, "is to subdue the enemy without fighting, but since you insisted on fighting—" Her smile widened as her quantum neural link confirmed the final preparations were complete. "Well, I suppose we'll have to show you how that's done too." High above Earth, 3,000 Zylaxian ships waited in perfect formation, their crews confident in their absolute victory over the primitive humans. They had no idea they were actually arranged in exactly the pattern humanity had spent weeks maneuvering them into, like pieces on a chessboard, positioned perfectly for checkmate. The trap was set, the enemy was in position, and humanity was about to demonstrate exactly why you should never, ever mistake technological advancement for actual strategic superiority. Chen's final thought as she was led onto the Zylaxian flagship was that she really hoped someone was recording this. Future generations were going to want to study exactly how humanity turned an apparent total defeat into the galaxy's most elaborate ambush. After all, it's not every day you get to teach an entire empire the true meaning of warfare. High Emperor Zixatal was in the middle of his victory speech when Admiral Chen decided she'd had enough of the theatrics. "And let this be a lesson to all who would resist the mighty Zylaxian Empire." "Oh, do shut up," Chen interrupted, casually breaking her ceremonial chains like they were made of chocolate. The look on the Emperor's face was worth every second of the past week's pretense. "I mean, really, how long were you planning to go on? Because I've got a schedule to keep." The throne room erupted in chaos. Guards raised weapons that mysteriously refused to fire. The Emperor's mandibles clicked in confusion as every screen in the room suddenly activated, showing feeds from across his empire. "You know what your biggest mistake was?" Chen asked conversationally, perching herself on the arm of his throne. "Besides the obvious one of attacking humanity, I mean." She pulled out her quantum tablet, ignoring the increasingly panicked attempts of the guards to subdue her. "You assumed that because we didn't have your level of technology when you found us, we never would." The screens showed impossible things, human soldiers appearing inside secured Zylaxian facilities, ships emerging from nowhere, defense systems shutting down across the Empire. "But here's the funny part," Chen continued, thoroughly enjoying herself now. "We had quantum technology before you even found Earth. We just kept it quiet. After all, why show your hand when your opponent is so eager to underestimate you?" Dr. Drake's voice cut in through the quantum network, broadcasting across every Zylaxian communication channel. "Do you want to know what those primitive research stations you destroyed were actually doing? Each one released millions of quantum-entangled particles, particles that are now part of every ship, every weapon, every system in your empire." The Emperor's face shifted from confusion to horror as understanding dawned. "Impossible. You lost those colonies." Chen's laugh was sharp enough to cut steel. "Lost, oh you sweet summer child. Those weren't losses. They were strategic placement. Every colony you defeated is now a fully armed military base in the heart of your territory. Every ship you destroyed is currently powered up and ready for action. Every piece of technology you so graciously showed us, we've had decades to figure out how to turn it against you." The quantum network hummed to life, visible now that they no longer needed to hide it. Lines of blue energy connected every human ship, every soldier, every system in an instant FTL communication grid that made the Zylaxians' best tech look like 2 tin cans and a string. 30 years, Chen said, examining her nails. "That's how long we've been preparing for this. Ever since our first deep space probes detected your empire's expansion. We knew you'd come eventually, knew you'd see us as easy prey, so we planned, we prepared, we waited." Commander Patel's voice joined the broadcast. "Those ceremonial chains? Quantum linked to every detention center in your empire. The surrender documents, embedded with entangled particles that just gave us access to your entire military database. Even this throne room," Chen added, patting the armrest she sat on, "is now part of our network. Actually, it has been since you built it. Those lovely purple crystals you use for decoration. Quantum receivers, every single one. We've been listening to your strategic meetings for years. The Emperor tried to rise, only to find himself unable to move. What are you doing? Oh, that's the best part, Chen said, standing. Remember all those victory messages you pre-recorded, the ones about conquering the primitive humans? She grinned. They're about to be very useful. Throughout the Empire, every Zelaxian communication system activated simultaneously, but instead of broadcasting their triumph, they showed the truth, humans appearing inside their most secure facilities, quantum-linked weapons bypassing their best shields and their own Emperor, frozen on his throne, as Admiral Chen delivered humanity's response to their ultimatum. Since you chose war, she broadcast, her voice carrying to every corner of the Zelaxian Empire, we decided to show you how it's done. Consider this a lesson in the dangers of underestimating your opponents. She turned to the Emperor, whose mandibles were clicking in helpless rage. By the way, those 24 hours you gave us to surrender, we took the liberty of using that time to position our forces inside every major military installation you have. Hope you don't mind. The quantum network pulsed once, and across the Empire humanity revealed its true strength. It wasn't a battle, it was a checkmate. The thing about quantum-coordinated attacks is that they're really quite beautiful, if you enjoy that sort of thing. Admiral Chen certainly did, watching from her commandeered perch on the Zelaxian throne as 47 simultaneous offensives unfolded across the Empire. All units, she broadcast through the quantum network, execute Operation Checkmate, and please try to keep property damage to a minimum. We're going to want to use some of this stuff later. The response was immediate and devastating. In the Centauri sector, Commander Patel's Special Forces teams simply walked through the walls of Zelaxian command centers, their quantum-phased armor making solid matter as permeable as air. The looks on the Zelaxian officers' faces as humans literally emerged from their supposedly impenetrable barriers were, in Patel's words, absolutely priceless. You know, Chen remarked to the still-frozen Emperor, your shield technology really is impressive. The way it creates a perfect energy barrier. Beautiful engineering. Shame about the quantum entanglement, though. As if to demonstrate her point, human warships across the Empire fired their weapons straight through Zelaxian shields. The quantum-linked projectiles, sharing the same quantum state as the shield generators themselves, simply ignored the barriers completely. We call it quantum bypass, Dr. Drake's voice echoed through the command channel, practically giggling with scientific glee. If two particles are entangled, they're essentially the same thing. Your shields literally can't stop our weapons because, on a quantum level, they're part of the same system. In the Orion sector, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez was having the time of her life. Fleet Group Alpha, executing pincer movement, she reported. And, would you look at that? Their entire command and control network just went offline. Such a shame about all those quantum particles in their communication arrays. The Zelaxian military structure, built on rigid hierarchy and instantaneous communication, collapsed like a house of cards. Every command center, every coordination hub, every strategic facility had been thoroughly infiltrated by quantum-entangled particles. With a single command from the human network, their entire communication system went dark. Fun fact, Chen told the increasingly distressed Emperor, we actually got the idea from your own technology, those fancy FTL communicators you use. We noticed they operated on quantum principles similar to our own research, you just never took it to its logical conclusion. Across the Empire, Zelaxian ships found themselves fighting blind, deaf, and increasingly alone. Their weapons refused to fire, their engines responded sluggishly, and their crews watched in horror as human forces seemed to materialize out of nowhere already inside their most secure locations. Admiral, Commander Reeves reported, Sectors 1 through 20 have been secured. Minimal casualties on both sides. Turns out it's pretty hard to fight back when your weapons think they're part of the enemy's network. Chen nodded approvingly. Excellent status on the civilian populations. Perfectly safe, Rodriguez cut in. Our quantum sensors identified all non-military targets days ago. We've got protection teams in place, making sure no one panics and does anything stupid. In the Carina sector, a Zelaxian fleet admiral tried to launch a counterattack. His ships managed to move almost 3 kilometers before their quantum-infested engines decided they'd rather power down for a nice rest. The human forces didn't even bother disabling them, they just watched, some of them actually eating popcorn. as the mighty Zelaxian armada drifted to a gentle stop. "You have to admire their spirit," Patel commented over the network. "They're still trying to figure out how to purge our quantum particles from their systems. It's kind of adorable." "Speaking of which," Chen turned back to the Emperor, "would you like to know the really clever part? Every attempt they make to remove the quantum entanglement just makes it spread faster. It's like trying to wash off water with more water." The battle, if you could even call it that, lasted exactly 17 minutes. In the end, the mighty Zylaxian Empire, terror of the galaxy, conqueror of 1,000 worlds, was defeated by their own technological arrogance. "All sectors reporting in," Reeves announced with professional satisfaction. "Enemy forces neutralized, total casualties, 7 sprained ankles, 3 bruised egos, and 1 case of hysterical laughter that needed medical attention." Chen stood, brushing imaginary dust from her uniform. "Well, Your Imperial Majesty, I believe this concludes our demonstration on the proper execution of warfare. Would you like to surrender now? Or should we spend another 17 minutes showing you what else we can do with quantum physics?" The quantum lock on the Emperor released, allowing him to speak. His mandibles clicked rapidly, the Zylaxian equivalent of hyperventilation. How long have you been capable of this?" "Oh, the quantum technology? Decades, the strategic planning? About 30 years? The ability to thoroughly infiltrate your empire?" Chen checked her watch. "About 6 months after you first showed up in our space, but the decision to let you think you were winning, to let you expand your forces across our territory, to wait until you'd committed your entire military to this glorious conquest." She smiled. "That was just good tactical sense." Across the Empire, human forces secured their objectives with almost ridiculous ease. The quantum network pulsed with status reports, each one confirming what they'd known would happen from the start. Total victory, minimal casualties, maximum embarrassment for the enemy. "You know what the really ironic part is?" Chen mused, watching the last Zylaxian holdout surrender. "If you'd just come in peace, we would have happily shared our quantum technology with you. But no, you had to go and choose war." She shrugged philosophically. "Oh well, at least it was educational. For you, I mean. We already knew how to do this." The battle was over. The war had been won before it even began, and somewhere in the quantum network, Dr. Drake was already planning how to write up the scientific papers about it all. The formal surrender ceremony was being broadcast across the galaxy, and Admiral Chen couldn't resist adding her own personal touch. She'd replaced the Emperor's ornate throne with a simple folding chair. Quantum reinforced, of course. "I, High Emperor Zixatal, the former ruler of the mighty Zylaxian Empire," read from the surrender document, mandibles twitching in barely suppressed humiliation, "do hereby acknowledge humanity's complete victory and superior tactical prowess." "You can skip the flowery parts," Chen interrupted, lounging in the former imperial throne. "Just get to the bit about unconditional surrender and acceptance of human oversight of all military activities. Some of us have dinner plans." Dr. Drake, standing off to the side with his quantum tablet, snickered. He was still collecting data on how the Zylaxians' biochemistry handled extreme embarrassment. For science, of course. After the official proceedings, Chen addressed the gathered representatives of various alien species who had come to witness the unprecedented defeat of the Zylaxian Empire. "Now, I know you're all wondering about the exact extent of human technological capabilities, so let me be clear, what you saw was just the quantum stuff. We've got plenty more toys we haven't shown yet." The assembled aliens shifted uncomfortably. Several of them were hastily revising their diplomatic stances toward Earth. "But here's the thing," Chen continued, her voice carrying that special edge that made even hardened warriors nervous. "We're actually quite peaceful. All this," she gestured at the quantum network still visibly pulsing through the Imperial Palace, "this was just us responding to a threat. Imagine what we could accomplish if we worked together instead." The new galactic order was established with remarkable speed after that. Funny how quickly peaceful cooperation becomes attractive when the alternative is getting your entire empire checkmated in 17 minutes. "You know what the best part is?" Chen remarked to her staff later, celebrating in what used to be the Imperial War Room, now featuring significantly more comfortable chairs. "They're already telling stories about this across the galaxy. The empire that learned war the hard way. How humanity taught peace through superior firepower. My personal favorite is the 17-minute empire. Commander Reeves raised his glass to teaching moments. Speaking of teaching, Dr. Drake interjected, the quantum technology sharing program is going well. The Xylaxians are actually quite brilliant when they're not being arrogant about it. Some of their theoretical work is fascinating. Amazing what people can accomplish when they're not trying to conquer each other, Rodriguez observed dryly. Chen stood, raising her own glass. To the future, then. May all our first contacts from now on be actually peaceful, but if they're not, her smile turned predatory. Well, we're pretty good teachers. Across the galaxy, the story spread how humanity had turned apparent defeat into absolute victory, how they had weaponized patience itself, and most importantly, how they had taught an empire that choosing war with humans was always a mistake. Though some say the real legend was Admiral Chen's final message to the Emperor. Next time, try asking nicely. We make much better friends than enemies. Also, your throne was really uncomfortable. You might want to look into ergonomics.